Now, it's my pleasure to bring on my next guest. This is someone who played professionally, soccer. He started his career, played professionally abroad, started his career at Villanova, then went to the University of London in England to play, played in England's League One league, and a bunch of other leagues he was participating in. He's coached in Ghana and the Middle East. He's coached all over the place, including the LA Galaxy Academy here. He trains and coaches a lot of soccer players, both youth and professional soccer players in the LA area. Now it's my pleasure to bring on to the show Dillon Chapman. Dillon, first of all, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jonah. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So let me first ask you, because I like starting off with hard-hitting questions right out of the gate. How much do you dislike the fact that in the U.S. we call soccer football, and American football we call football? Does that bother you at all?
It bothered the friends that I made over in London a lot more than it did me growing up, because it was commonplace being in the United States to hear soccer, although in my house with an English father, it was football. So I had both, terms used growing up. But when I moved to England at 18, if I slipped soccer out in the conversation, my friends would let me have it. But yeah, I often run into the conversation where it's, football, right, is a direct translation to what you're doing in the sport of soccer. My dad used to say it's throw egg. And I said, don't get caught saying that around here. And my friends, I'll never hear the end of it. But yeah, it goes both ways, football or soccer, either one for me.
So let's stick with your father, Andy, who began his soccer career playing for Arsenal, the football club, just a decorated football club to say the least. He played professionally for over 2 decades. First, let me ask you. Then, obviously, played in Detroit as well, where you grew up. Let me ask you, first of all, what was it like growing up in a household with a professional soccer player as a father? And were you even given the opportunity to learn any other sport, or was it, hey, you're playing soccer, that's the only sport you're allowed to play?
Yeah, it's certainly a unique experience. He signed professional at 16, right? So he was kind of like a young prodigy. And he played in England for 2 years before getting recruited by some NASL coaches. And the NASL at the time was the place to be for international players. There was more money over here. It was exciting. The U.S. and the soccer market has kind of had a wave over the years. And in the late 70s and 80s, obviously Pele was over here, Beckenbauer, some big international names were coming over. So he got offered 3 times his weekly wage, a house and a car to come to Los Angeles, and jumped at it, and had a career over 25 years in the outdoor and indoor game in the United States. So growing up, soccer was kind of all I knew. It was certainly all he knew. It's all he really cared about, because he was playing it professionally, but he encouraged me to play other sports, and I was interested in other sports, right, growing up here. So I played basketball at the high school level. I played tennis. I swam. My mom was a swimmer, so he encouraged me to be well-rounded, and that actually contributed to my ability on the soccer field, I think. So unique growing up with a professional athlete in the house. We'd get into the car. I remember being about 8 years of age, getting in the car with my mom, my brother, and my sister, heading down to the Palace of Auburn Hills, where the Pistons play, being in a box and eating pizza and, drinking soda and, watching your dad down on the field score goals. So very unique and special kind of experience for sure.
And by the way, congratulations to your Pistons for getting the #1 overall pick.
Huge. You
needed that.
Tough time to be a Detroit sports fan.
Agreed. Now, let me ask you, was there a specific player or a team that you grew up trying to model your soccer game after? Was it your father, or was it someone else?
I was very inspired by my dad, because we had tapes at the house, and his kind of playing style was very he was acrobatic. So in the indoor game, obviously you can play it off the boards. he was known for his bicycle kick. So I was always super kind of athletic as a kid. I'd love to run. Like if I could run faster, jump higher, I'd figure out how to do it. And so I loved translating that into my game. So when I'd seen players in the Premier League like Wayne Rooney, Sergio Aguero, just powerful kind of athletic players, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I always gravitated towards that, wanted to mimic that because I was inspired by the athleticism of those kind of highlight reel acrobatic goals.
Now, one of the things that I've always noticed and I hear about when we look at European athletes, and this is really prominent and noticeable when it comes to basketball, is everyone always talks about how at such a young age in Europe, you learn the fundamentals and the technical skills of sports at such a young age, whether it's in soccer, it's the touch and the passes and the spacing and just understanding the team game. You've obviously played soccer both in Europe and England, and you played in the US. What have you noticed is perhaps the biggest difference in either the points of emphasis or the skill sets that they're trying to preach at a young age into the youth in Europe as opposed to the US?
I can speak to England a little more specifically. I've played games, handful of games across a couple of countries in Europe, but in my experience, there's just a way more dialed in kind of foundation that's built into every player on the technical, but also the tactical side. So understanding how you should be spaced out, understanding what the role of each position is communicated and understood very, very early on. And then the technical foundation of being able to pass, receive a ball, keep your head up, shoot. All these things are drilled really early. And that's not to say that we aren't trying to do that over here or that is lost on us. But I think the major separator between, you use basketball as a reference. For soccer, I almost think it's the ability to watch the game or be around the game and be exposed to it and understand it and learn it through watching. Growing up here, it's almost like soccer, at least when I was growing up, it's certainly not the case anymore. And it's visible, it's on TV, people can see it, kids can see it. You'd see the game, so you'd learn visually. Whereas when I was a kid, it was just starting to be widely televised. So your experience of it was your practice time, playing in the game, and then maybe watching a World Cup game here and there. Whereas in Europe, you're watching soccer every single day, studying it and learning that way. So I think that's a big difference.
And I think the ambulance behind you is probably suggesting that they either disagree or they really agree. One of the two.
That's just life and Ven.
So now that you train and you coach a lot of youth players and pro players as well, but let's stick with the youth. What's the kind of main message that you as a coach or you as a trainer are trying to send to those kids about soccer? Yeah.
So honestly, my approach and the club that I run, Venice Beach FC, with my partner Tim, and we have a great staff and a lot of talented coaches that come in and help us with our mission here locally. We're kind of contrary to the existing U.S. soccer club business franchise kind of format that's dominated the U.S. youth landscape. And at a really early age, this game gets super competitive and it gets super intense. And I think the pressure builds up for these kids to perform and for coaches to get titles. And the joy of the game is lost. And you can see that in playing styles amongst young kids, that they play with pressure. They play with a lack of joy. So when we get a kid into Venice Beach FC, or if I'm working with a kid one-on-one, my main thing is to kind of let them play with joy, trying to inspire them to enjoy what they're doing and not let the pressure of Southern California youth soccer. I grew up in Michigan. it's a beast. There's so much talent in Southern California. It's so concentrated here that it gets really competitive. And so my mission is build the technical foundation, teach them the tactical needs to play this game at the small-sided 7v7, 9v9, 11v11. Understand the game for sure, but enjoy the game more than anything.
And I think that the joy piece of it is a really good one. And I'm going to touch on VBFC in a moment, but I want to stick with, for me, Dillon, for the first time really since the Landon Donovan era, it seems like the U.S., that joy is starting to come back. You're seeing young, really ascending superstars like Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie that have really built their brands abroad in Europe, but coming back to the U.S. have really seemed to revive and resuscitate this team that reached rock bottom just 2 years ago, losing to Trinidad and Tobago in the qualifier.
Totally.
So from looking at those two guys, and obviously it culminated in the recent win over Mexico in the CONCACAF, how significant do you think that, first of all, that win was, just as far as inspiring younger up-and-coming soccer players to say, hey, these are some guys that we can aspire to be, that have had major success and have excelled in Europe, but also from the U.S. standpoint, where do you think we are kind of as a national team and just kind of soccer in the American culture?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Even at I'm 32 now, so I've never been profoundly excited by U.S. soccer. And there have been a few players who have had some success over in Europe in the past. Tim Howard is one of the major ones. There's a list of players who have gone over there but never really cracked the nut. And to see someone like Christian Pulisic go over to Dortmund at an early age and break into the first team and have an impact, and Weston McKennie do it at Juventus, and Serginho Dest and Brendan Aronson and Gio Reyna. There's about 50 players, young U.S. players that are in Europe that are impacting their teams, and that was not the case 10 years ago. So I think it's a fundamental improvement on what's possible for young U.S. talent. I think it's a twofold. It's a good and there's a double-edged sword to it. One, it's fantastic to see this talent go over there and improve the quality of the U.S. national team. Two, it says that we need to be able to do that over here, right? So our professional leagues need to provide that same level of development and opportunity. And I think eventually, sorry for the noise here, the ladder going up.
So someone's trying to get an inside peek into your interview, Dillon.
That's right. That's right. So you have both the development at an early age over in Europe and the success of young U.S. soccer stars, but you lose out on developing that talent here in the United States. So that's the next chapter, I think, in order to really round out the U.S. national team's identity, which I think is the crux of the issue. Is the U.S. soccer culture, the U.S. soccer identity needs to really come into its own in order for the team to have long-term success and to be able to develop players here. But to see them beat Mexico in the way that they did, the resolve of Horvath to save that penalty at the end, and the young stars stepping up to the plate, Weston McKennie scoring, Gio Reyna, it's encouraging. And I think they're going to have a lot of confidence going forward into any tournament, the Gold Cup coming up in a couple of weeks. I think it's an exciting time to be a U.S. soccer fan, albeit I'm an England fan. I am excited to see U.S. soccer have some success with this super talented young generation.
So you mentioned VBFC, Venice Beach Football Club, which is a local sports organization that really helps promote and celebrate soccer among the LA communities. And it also kind of offers skill sets and just anything that you need to excel at soccer, whether it's a youth level or whether it's a professional level. but it's really promoting and celebrating the game. And since its inception about 4 years ago, it's really blossomed into a full-fledged organization.
Totally.
And I think that you've really kind of helped spearhead this movement, spearheading this culture, and promulgating the benefits of the positive lifestyles that can come from soccer and how that translates to so many different acts of life. Kind of given your close involvement to VBFC, what do you think is the vision of VBFC, and what do you think are maybe the benefits of having a program like this, an organization like this, moving forward for just American soccer culture?
Yeah, I think, well, basically between myself and Tim, who founded it, we both had experience playing the sport abroad, right, and experiencing the culture of the sport in different countries. So I obviously spent a lot of time in England, half English, went to the Middle East, went to West Africa, have been all over Europe and experienced soccer culture. And Tim has been in Asia, Australia, and one kind of common thread through all the soccer culture around the world and soccer clubs is they have a real community involvement in their. This slide is ridiculous. Sorry, it's coming down. There's a real community involvement in the success of a local soccer organization, right? So there's culture that surrounds that. There's a real sense of identity belonging to your soccer club. It's rooted in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood is invested in its success, and that was kind of the model with which we wanted to build VBFC upon. It's VBFC. It's representing Venice Beach. It means that you're proud to be from Venice Beach. It means that we are local in our approach and global in our reach, hopefully. But we're pushing forward the idea that you can start this in any neighborhood, and pickup soccer should be a fundamental opportunity for any kid, and it shouldn't come at any cost. There should be high-level pickup games, as there were in the countries we played in, happening on a regular basis. And it should be grassroots, right? It should be community-led and supported. Right now, you get a lot of teams that are kind of top-down, dropped into cities, and they kind of try and build the grassroots around it. And we think it kind of should be flipped around. It should be grown from the bottom up. Neighborhoods should be invested, and you generate genuine culture by doing that.
And you've also generated popularity abroad. You see guys like Mbappe that have showed up, Chicharito that have showed up, and clearly, even though the main kind of it maybe was founded here in Venice Beach, but at the same time, you're seeing the reach extend far beyond that, because it's that the culture and the message that you're trying to send, which is a really beautiful message. Let me ask you final couple questions, then I'll let you go. Along with VBFC, what are the other current endeavors that you're involved with right now?
Well, so VBFC is kind of my main gig right now. But we have kind of 4 different things that we're involved in on a regular basis. We obviously have the youth that we're taking care of in the neighborhood, and trying to develop, which is its own endeavor. We have our pickup game and the events that we try and put on to highlight and create moments that are special within U.S. soccer. We're creating apparel and lifestyle wear that speaks to that culture, and also creating media as well. So, Jonah, to be honest, I'm swamped just with VBFC. I'm trying to find time to do other things, but looking on to what's possible within U.S. soccer, I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things happening around the U.S. National team and around the growth of the game. That's going to create different opportunities. So I'm excited to see what kind of opportunities lie ahead. But as of now, I'm kind of anchored down in Venice next to loud ladders and ambulances keeping me up. But yeah, we'll see what's next.
And you mentioned that you've been rooting for England. They just played yesterday against Scotland in the UEFA Euro. Are you more encouraged by that win, or were you kind of discouraged by the fact that they missed so many opportunities right around the net?
Honestly, being an England fan is so hard. That's just like living in the heartbreak hotel, supporting England as a young kid. They always drop out of a tournament too early. They're always full of promise and under deliver. So to win our opening game, which rarely happens, to not lose, to just tie Scotland was a little shaky. But these games, if you look back at most international games, they're decided by a goal. Usually there's the rare one-off where, Germany slaughters Brazil 7-1 or whatever, but that's a rare occurrence, right? It's usually a 1-0, 2-0. Teams play very cagey, very conservative, do not, get scored on, try and get one back. So England's kind of playing it to the script that we expect. And we finish top of the group, go to the knockout stages, and I'm just praying that we bring it home. But there's so much talent in England right now. You mentioned Mbappe, and France is a frightening team. Belgium and Portugal.
And by the way, that group of France, Portugal, and Germany, that is ridiculous. That is a gauntlet of a group just to advance.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a final question. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? Or if they want to learn more about VBFC or what you're doing, how can people find you, Dillon?
Yeah, so I'm Dillon T. Chapman on Instagram. And then our club is Venice Beach Football Club. You can find that on Instagram at vb.fc and keep up with what we're doing. We run a pickup game every Sunday, 4 p.m. till sunset. So if you're ever in the Venice area, come by the rec center, the iconic spot where White Man Can't Jump was shot, and all the rec sports are happening: basketball, handball, skateboarding, and all that. We're down there every Sunday.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dillon. Make sure to go check out VBFC or contact Dillon if you need some training. I can speak firsthand to it that he knows what he's doing. He's good at that stuff. So, Dillon, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking some time on your busy morning.
Appreciate the time, Jonah. It was a pleasure.
All right. Dillon Chapman, thank you so much. Great to have him on.